Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here at Politics in the Pub. The topic this evening is bullying in the workplace, regulating the regulators. A very controversial topic, one which evokes all kinds of emotions on all kinds of levels. I can't think of two better people to address this topic than David Shoebridge, MLC, and PSA Assistant General Secretary Steve Turner, because both of them have been incredibly active in their professional lives in relation to the problem of workplace bullying, but also in relation to workers' rights as a whole. And I'm going to introduce both of them formally. Just before I do that, can I just tell you about a website that I think is pretty beautiful. It's called Guarding Minds at Work. It's a free web-based strategy that helps employers protect and promote psychological safety and health in the workplace. And it identifies, with the assistance of Simon Fraser University in Canada, 13 psychosocial risk factors. I've actually written all 13 down, but I'm not going to read them out. Have a look on the website and you'll see for yourself. But they include things like civility and respect, organisational culture, growth and development, workload management and psychological support. Things that you don't find in workplaces that aren't very good at managing psychosocial hazards. Steve Turner, as I indicated, is the Assistant General Secretary of the Public Service Association of New South Wales. It covers approximately 40,000 members. The PSA has a decision-making Central Council comprising 7 executive members and 45 other members. They do sensational work. Their work needs to be celebrated right around the cosmos, in my view. Just by way of example, their current campaigns include defending public services by campaigning to stop cuts across the sector, resisting privatisation, and very recently 20,000 signatures, that's a lot of signatures, 25,000 signatures were presented to the New South Wales Parliament calling for retention of a key role in ageing, disability and home care sector, and at the same time protecting the conditions of ADHC staff. Also a lot of work being done around TAFE and the university, and very recently Steve gave some evidence on this occasion and on previous occasion at the follow-up hearings of the parliamentary inquiry into bullying at work cover at Macquarie Street, and provided some insight into a whole range of issues affecting public sector workers and workers across New South Wales.
Now, bullying for me has been a passion of mine for a long time now, and it highlighted in about approximately 2003 when the PSA lost a very good member to suicide. And we started to investigate and carry out some surveys in the departments then. And in education we found some shocking statistics of the extent of bullying across the public sector. We rolled that out against forestry, fire brigades and several other departments, and found it was absolutely shocking across the public sector, especially amongst women, and especially amongst women over 40 years of age. Well, that led us to lobbying in New South Wales, Labor Council it was called at the time, and them and us joining together with the nurses and the fire brigades and lobbying the government and getting a dignity and respect charter agreed to with premiers. Cole Gallatley came on board and was very good about it, where the charter laid out what's expected about behaviour between employees within the public sector, the training needed to try and stop bullying and to make managers better managers, and the processes that would be followed if someone put in a complaint against bullying. Myself and Cole Gallatley signed the first Dignity Charter in 2004 in the Opera House, and from then on we've been rolling it out and getting every government department to sign it. A shocking thing as that developed was one of the departments that we found very hard to get to sign was work cover. And there was various events going on at work cover at the time. I've forgotten, or I won't actually name the guy who was the CEO at the time. We carried out a survey and found that 39% of the employees of work cover thought they'd been bullied or experienced bullying or witnessed being bullied in the workplace. I then had a meeting with the CEO And he said, well, we've carried our own statistic and we find there's only 26% that have experienced it. And I said, so you are the organisation responsible for workplace safety in New South Wales. You're the organisation responsible for enforcing workplace safety in New South Wales. And you yourself say 25%, 1/4 of your organisation has been bullied or experienced it, and you're not prepared to do anything about it, which led to a question of how you move forward. Now, leaped forward a few years, and we then had a member dismissed in work cover, Wayne Butler. I think his name's pretty well known now, so it's not a secret. We took that issue to the Industrial Relations Commission, and it was before Deputy President Harrison in Newcastle. He found shocking behaviour had been shown to this member, and various processes had been institutionally, I'll call it, put in place to ensure that this person was treated appallingly, not given a fair go, and it eventually led to his dismissal. So he reinstated Mr. Butler and made some shocking outlined some shocking findings in the reinstatement decision, attacking work cover, attacking its management culture of bullying and some of the processes that had followed. It was then that David Shoebridge took that up and got the inquiry called at Parliament, which I'll leave him to deal with because he was on the committee and he instituted it. But the inquiry led to some great outcomes. About almost 4 years ago now, this government got elected, a coalition government got elected in the state. It decided, having been elected, to then carry out what it now calls its People Matter survey. In the very first People Matter survey, it found that 48% of the respondents, i.e. people employed by the state government, had witnessed bullying in the last 12 months, and 29% had been subjected to bullying in the last 12 months. They carried out another one just this year and found that 41% had experienced or witnessed it, and 23%. So the numbers fell slightly over 2 years, but the question was different. Anyway, that's led to a round table now. They admit that they have to do something about it within government because those are just shocking statistics. It's led to a round table, which has met 3 times. It's basically, it's a mixture of the unions New South Wales and the government all getting together to look at how we can address this issue within the public sector. The committee has been addressed by 2 academics, Dr. Michelle Tuckey, who was recommended by the Public Service Commission, and Dr. Carlo Kopanikia, who was requested by the PSA and Unions New South Wales. So when you come to, well, who regulates the regulator, work cover now, I think, is truly trying to do something about it. Howard can probably address it himself, but it's got a new CEO who's personally taken a personal crusade to make sure that work cover is reformed, and I think work cover will change, but the Public Service Commission is responsible for driving that process in the public service generally. So we'll see where that goes. But the inquiry that was held came up with, I can't remember the number of recommendations off the top of my head now, but that'll be talked about, the 13. They had a review of those recommendations because some of them are quite significant, which David will go into, but they held a review of that 2 weeks ago, I think it was, now 3 weeks ago. Time's flying actually so fast, it might have been 4 weeks ago, I can't quite remember. And we gave evidence about the inquiry. The day was basically what's happened to the recommendation, where's it going. One of the things I focused on though in that inquiry, upon questioning from one of the coalition MPs on the committee, was that bullying in the public sector comes about primarily, or in a big extent, because of insecurity in work. Now, governments are going through privatisations, outsourcing. This government's just decided to go from what it used to call the Public Sector Management Act, or Employment and Management Act, to the Government Service Employment Act. It's moving people from being appointed to a job to a position. It's also one of the figures we found out, this government employs, or of all of its employees, and this is the information I gave to the committee, of all the employees it has, 19% of them are temporary. And we said, like, so when you employ something like 350,000, 322,000, I think is the actual figure, by government, 19% of those people are temporary, and when you're in temporary employment, you're not sure if you can pay your mortgage, you're not sure how you're going to feed your kids next week, and someone asks you to do something, or someone puts a bit of pressure on you, you are effectively bullied. You can be bullied with the amounts of restructures that go on, and they say, well, we used to have 20 people doing that job, now we'll only have 17 doing it. 3 people suddenly are in very insecure employment and get all sorts of pressure put on them. And I focused on that in the committee, and it actually got good press the next day in the Herald. Whether it's because of that evidence or whether it's because something else, the Public Sector Commission decided to meet with the PSA, and the very next week, because one of the things I gave evidence about was this new act said all temporaries had to be appointed by the 24th of February next year or dismissed. So when you take the public sector as, sorry, it's all temporaries beyond 4 years employment, to be precise, 5 years. There was a huge number that we were concerned about. Well, luckily, well, in good stead, the Public Service Commission met with the PSA the next week, and they have extended that date until 2017, and they've put clearer guidelines on how those temporaries can be appointed now, and they also made another very significant change. They'd said up until then, if you'd had 4 years of temporary employment and another job came up, you were not allowed to apply for it, and they've now lifted that because they recognise that that's inequitable. You should be allowed to apply and be considered on merit along with anyone else. So there's been some very good things come out of it and from the questioning and what's gone forward, but there is a big problem with bullying in this New South Wales public sector. It's across the board, and I believe it's because of this new big society push, if you like, the economic push about outsourcing governments, about not making jobs secure, and that makes huge insecurity, and therefore people can be pressured and pressures put on them, and they feel bullied within the public sector, and that's really what needs to be addressed. In terms of who can regulate that, well, we've put it on the Public Service Commissioner, which is a new position put in place by this coalition government. We've said it's up to them to sort it out. That person is responsible for making sure it came out of the Commission of Audit, making sure that the public service operates properly, effectively and fairly, and to do that it's got to make sure that people have secure employment and are not bullied in the workplace. So that's where we stand.